President Trump preparing to sign an executive order on the healthcare law on Thursday. He also announced last week that he would end subsidies paid to insurers to help consumers afford coverage, effectively ending the dispute at the heart of a lawsuit between the White House and Congress. Doug Mills, The New York Times, Washington. The House won a major institutional victory over the White House on healthcare spending last week, but it wasn't really a fair fight in the end. The Trump administration capitulated in a long-running legal dispute over health insurance subsidies paid out under the Affordable Care Act, concurring with House Republicans' claim that the Obama administration had unconstitutionally spent billions of dollars. In siding with the House, the Trump administration found a legal justification for its decision to stop paying as much as $7 billion this year to insurers in exchange for holding down out-of-pocket expenses for millions of Americans. Democrats say the decision is a blatant attempt to undermine the healthcare law by roiling the insurance markets and driving up costs for consumers. But there are important implications beyond the consequences for the healthcare law. The declaration by Attorney General Jeff Sessions that the spending was indeed unconstitutional because it was never explicitly appropriated by Congress could also short-circuit a legal clash with significant separation of powers issues. Major questions about the relationship between Congress and the executive branch that might have been settled by an appeals court, or even the Supreme Court, could now be left hanging. Chief among them is the validity of a federal district court ruling that the Republican-led House had legal standing in 2014 when it sued the Obama administration to defend the spending power of Congress. It was a first-of-its-kind decision that many legal experts saw as questionable. The Obama administration argued that the dispute between Congress and the White House was political and needed to be resolved through legislative action, not in federal court. In a less charged political climate, the executive branch might fight that issue out to protect its own power even if it wanted the healthcare law dismantled, as the Trump administration does, opening the door to lawsuits initiated by Congress over the specifics of how the executive branch spends tax dollars would be a marked change and a potential threat to the White House. The idea that Congress would have standing to go into court, as opposed to using their legislative remedies to dictate how the executive branch spends appropriated funds, would really shift the balance of power between the two branches, said Catherine Ruemmler, a White House counsel in the Obama administration. Neil Eggleston, who succeeded Ms. Ruemmler as President Barack Obama's legal advisor, said the Trump administration might come to regret not pursuing the separation of powers issue if it finds itself facing an aggressive Democratic Congress. It is a mistake to think of this as a partisan fight over health care, said Mr. Eggleston, who called the litigation critical to separation of powers issues. The White House has Leader McConnell and Speaker Ryan now, but could easily be dealing before the end of the administration with Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi. He was referring, of course, to Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, the majority leader, and Speaker Paul D. Ryan of Wisconsin, two Republicans unlikely to initiate a lawsuit against a Republican president, and Senator Chuck Schumer of New York and Representative Nancy Pelosi of California, two Democrats now leading the minority, with hopes of claiming the majority in 2018. The 2016 decision by Judge Rosemary M. Collyer that the healthcare spending was unconstitutional and that the House could pursue the lawsuit was at only the district court level, and its reach was viewed as limited. The judge also said the unique circumstances of a case testing the authority of the congressional power of the purse, its most fundamental constitutional role, had led her to grant standing, suggesting she did not mean to bestow expansive new legal rights on Congress. Still, the decision alarmed the White House sufficiently that it rapidly pushed forward with an appeal both to preserve its independence and to protect the healthcare law. The decision by the Justice Department to drop its defense of the Obama program and cut off the subsidies was not unexpected. Since President Trump took office, his administration has shown little interest in taking up the Obama administration cause. Quite the contrary. Given their strong opposition to the Obama healthcare program, the Trump administration and House Republicans asked the appeals court to hold off on any action in the lawsuit until Congress decided what to do about the healthcare law. Unable to force through a repeal, the administration has now turned to other actions it can take, with the decision to cut off the subsidies just the latest one. How the court case will ultimately be disposed of remains unclear. Nicholas Bagley, a University of Michigan law professor who has followed it closely, expects that the Justice Department will move to have it declared moot, since the main point of contention, the legality of the subsidies, has been settled by the new finding by Mr. Sessions. There is nothing left to fight about, Mr. Bagley said. It might not be so simple. A coalition of states successfully intervened in the lawsuit this year in an effort to protect consumers when it became clear that the Trump administration was not inclined to contest the House claim. Mr. Bagley said the states could ask the appeals court to block the Trump administration from cutting off the funding. In addition, insurance companies could go to court to recover the subsidies they had been promised under the law. There are also bipartisan efforts in Congress to formally appropriate the money. One thing is clear: with the House and the executive branch now on the same legal side, there is no longer any separation between the two main powers in the case.